G'day, welcome back to the workshop. I'm Josh Giumelli from Kondinin Group, and we've got another workshop tip brought to you by Hare and Forbes. Today I thought we'd do something a little bit more light-hearted and look at what's actually in my toolbox. I live on a farm, and so I spend a fair bit of time carting my tools around and can't really take that big fella around with me, so I need something that's portable. This is an old Sidchrome box that I bought many years ago, and it has a 1/2-inch socket set in the top. It's also got 1/4-inch sockets, so it's a pretty comprehensive little socket set. Of course, it doesn't survive being thrown around in the ute very well, so what I did at some stage was I fiberglassed the bottom of the socket tray, and so that's actually stopped it from falling to bits. Works very well. So lurking in the bottom of the toolbox is a pretty decent engineer's hammer. Probably the most expensive tool in the toolbox is this Nipex big set of grippers. If I'm doing a fair bit of work on pipe fittings and things, that is absolutely essential. And of course, a pretty large crescent spanner, pretty good for anything sort of over the size of any of the sockets or spanners that I've got. Going into that, included in that toolbox were a set of imperial and a set of metric combination spanners. Now, they're pretty well used. They only go up to 19 mil, so what I did was I embellished those with 20, 21, 22 and 23 millimetre metric spanners. So that actually just makes it a little bit handier. They usually sit right on the top of the toolbox where they're pretty easy to get to. We'll chuck them in. I've got a set of high quality shears, pretty handy for when you need to cut things. These two little compact sets of metric and imperial Allen keys. You can't do anything too heavy with those, but they don't take up a lot of space. That is actually a set of watchmaker's screwdrivers inside there, so nice and compact and stored in the handle so you don't lose them. There's all these random things that you tend to collect which are quite handy. That's an old screwdriver, but it works as a really good pry bar, and you can hit the end of it. A selection of cold chisels. I tend to use cold chisels a lot for various jobs. Pin punches. I've got quite a few pin punches there. They get used quite a lot. That's actually a brass drift, so that's pretty important for when you want to hit something and not treat it too badly. There should be 2 of these in there, but I could only find one. That's a thread file, both internal and external. That's an imperial one. There should be a metric one somewhere. Gasket scraper. That's a very handy tool. Pliers. I have a set of pinchers, long nose pliers, standard pliers, and a nice set of side cutters. Locking pliers, very handy. A smaller set of grippers. These are well used. I find these to be a very handy tool, even if you just want to grip the head of a rounded off nut or something with those. They're sensational. Arrange those a bit so we can fit things in. Just a little folding knife. This thing takes just your standard Stanley trimmer blade, so I find that to be pretty handy. I did give myself a bit of a treat. These are my old screwdrivers, odds and ends. Well, they're not going back in. I managed to get these the other day, and they were pretty expensive, but I find them to be the perfect thing for a travelling toolbox. They've got what they call a through tang, so you can hit that with a hammer. I know it's probably not the recommended practice for a screwdriver, but sometimes you do whatever it takes. And you can also put a spanner on there where you need a bit of extra leverage. The only disappointing thing about these is the flathead and the Phillips head look exactly the same, so I've wrapped a little bit of insulation tape around all the Phillips heads. So in they go. Probably going to cull 1 or 2 of those because that toolbox will get a bit too full. I carry a spare 1/2-inch extension. That's always very handy for when you want to reach into a tight place. I picked this up the other day and I've been carrying it around. It's actually a set of socket adapters and reducers and things. It's got 1/4-inch, 3/8 and 1/2-inch. So all those handy little things like universal joints and so forth. And I actually clip them all together and put them in there as one long snake. I know where to find it. You kind of always need something a little bit out of the ordinary for some jobs. Take 4 files. So I've got round rat tails file, triangular file, comes in pretty handy, and then 2 flat files, so sort of bastard cut file for lots of metal removal, and then a smooth single cut file. We're getting there. A little roll of emery cloth tape when you need to polish a shaft or something. There's always insulation tape in there. Thread tape. A little bottle of Loctite. And look, a little spray can of penetrant is always a good idea in the toolbox. I normally have one that's a little bit smaller than this, so look, I'm not going to put that in the toolbox because I don't think I'll be able to shut the lid. But look, there you go. The lid does shut. You don't want a larger toolbox because you put too many tools in it and you'll fill it up to the point where you won't be able to carry it. But that's about as much as I can put in that one, and every single one of those tools gets used.